And welcome back, everybody. Thanks for sticking with us. Well, we were talking with Joe Bottini, United County's official historian, about that park. And that park once marked the site of Old Fort Schuyler, and it was down at the end of 3rd Street, Joe?
3rd, Main, and Park Ave, yes.
Yep. And that got displaced, that park got displaced when the new arterial went in. And those monuments, you can just barely make them out there, but those monuments were moved over to the Bagg Hotel.
Commemorative Park, yeah.
Yeah, the Bagg Commemorative Building. The progress on that, I know it's not been as fast as you'd like,
right.
but the progress, where do we stand now with getting that park in there? What do we need to do to get that done?
Well, Mr. Pacenti has been rehabbing the Railway Express wing.
Very nicely, too.
And it's coming along very nicely. And the eastern third of that REA wing from Union Station is so deteriorated they can't rehab it. So it's got to be taken down. And he said as soon as that is taken down, then they will work on moving the monuments, because it's very close to where the original footprint of Old Fort Schuyler was, and they don't want to put monuments there and put them in jeopardy of being damaged. I kind of smiled because you could cover them easily with some plywood and they wouldn't get damaged. But so we're waiting on that to happen. And it all began 4 years ago. And he worked very hard to get the okay finances from the county legislature. You have a few legislators who seem to want to say no to anything that is progress. It's spending money. It's good to be frugal, but on the other hand, progress needs spending money.
Do you see a time frame for this, Joe?
The truth is, I was 79 years old when he first promised me, and he said, by your next birthday, it'll be done. I'll be 84 this year. Does that tell you something? So I've learned to be patient, except when I'm home.
Another thing you were trying to save, it didn't happen, but that was that cannon. I think we got a picture of that cannon. And the cannon was named, I didn't know they named cannons, but they named this one Saratoga.
Old Saratoga. She was a beautiful cannon who was a resident of Utica for over almost 200 years. There she is there. And as you could see, the caisson is kind of deteriorating there. That's when she was parked in front of the Armory on Culver Ave.
Right.
Her history is just unbelievable, because she goes from one place to the other. Initially, she would be hauled out every July 4th and set off to celebrate the July 4th. And there's a good photograph of the deterioration. Well, what happened is she got moved from place to place, and finally was put in front of the Armory on Steuben Park and stayed there for 60 years.
That's where the historical park apartments are, right?
Right, you're correct. They tore down the Armory and built the Armory on Culver Ave, and she was subsequently moved in front of the Armory on Culver Ave. Well, I was down there and I saw this, and I thought it was just terrible that this relic, this Revolutionary War icon, was just ignored, just sitting there deteriorating. So I wrote a guest editorial. Thank God for David Didayek. He does a lot of work too with local history. We got to give him credit.
Yes, he does.
Wrote a guest editorial about hoping to get some interest in rehabbing this cannon. And well, with that, they must have gotten frightened at the Armory, the National Guard. They contacted the State Military Museum in Saratoga Springs. They came after the cannon, and Sarah was gone. No one knew what happened. She was kidnapped by the state. And it's interesting that in 1879, the state tried to get her then, when she was at the in front of the old public library on Elizabeth Street. Well, the mayor then, Mayor Buckley at the time, ordered that she be arrested and put in jail. So they took her and put her by the police station, the old police station we were talking about, and kept her there so that the state couldn't get at her. And the state finally gave up.
Yeah, so the cannon today...
But they got her now. Can you imagine?
Yeah, yeah. It took a while, though.
You know, what, over 100 years.
Yeah. So the cannon Saratoga is now, is it on display?
No, apparently they're rehabbing it. So
well, that's a good thing.
I'm going to visit. I'm going to visit Sarah. I miss her terribly. I tried to save her. I spoke to a lot of people, but it didn't happen. You know, cannons, those 3 cannons right at the park that we were talking about earlier, they were deteriorating in Old Bagg Park. And when we wrote our book, we went down and I saw, this is, you know, lack of respect for historic significance. And so we said something about, those cannon were taken and stored in the REA wing. This is over 10 years ago. Nobody knew what happened to the cannon. And we found them in the REA wing. They were just stored in there, all deteriorated. And so I talked to Brian Howard, who does a nice job at the County History Center. We don't agree on a lot of things, but he does a great job. I said to him, I said, Brian, why don't we take that cannon, get it restored, and put it up on the lawn in front of the History Center? I said, that would make a nice draw. You know, it would be a site for history happens here. And he said, we don't have the money. We really can't afford it. Of course, they're running on a shoestring constantly. And 2 years later, he found some money and had it done.
Yeah, I think they appealed, the Oneida County History Center appealed to its patrons and the public to donate.
Correct.
A lot of donations came in, and it enabled that. In fact, I think they took parts off of 2 or 3 cannons to make that one cannon.
Exactly.
And now it's out there in front of 1608 Genesee Street.
Right, and the housing of it was done by MVCC Construction Company. And your telethon, the History Center telethon that you do every year, really is a major fundraiser for the History Center. People don't realize that it runs on a shoestring.
Well, you know, it's like any other 501 or many other 501c3s. You know, it's always a struggle. You know, you need to raise money, and thank goodness the public has been very gracious in terms of the History Center, because they're the ones that chipped in and made that possible. What's on Joe Bottini's agenda for the next year or two? What do you want to see happen?
I'd love to see that Old Fort Scholar Park happen, and I'd love to see the website of the county be what it ought to be, telling the history of the area and listing all of the, we got a lot of local repositories that do a good job. I mean, you've got Dick Williams in Clinton.
Yeah.
And you have the Riskany. That's a fantastic.
And you know what I'd love to see? I'd love to see you come back, because we're out of time.
Oh, dear.
And we didn't use a lot of your pictures, but you come back, we'll do it next time.
Okay, anytime you want me. I'll
Thank
be
you,
back.
Joe. Yeah. That's going to do it for us this week. We'll be back next week. Speaking of websites, CNYHomepage.com, they've got a lot of interesting things there, including archives of this show. And don't forget Hidden History Monday at the 6 o'clock news. That's it. See you next time, everybody.